Previously on the Seegers Family Edifice Venture. Things really were slow on the progress of our project as we waited for our building permits, but we still moved forward. While waiting for the permits, we moved some dirt from the building to fill in a few ruts, which shagged a few rabbits out and gave Gwen the opportunity to show her super kid speed as she chased one out of the yard. We also took on the leftover logs that could not be milled into wood for furniture use and discovered a squirrel's nest lined with insulation from the building. Upon getting our sewage permit, things sped up as we were able to install the septic system. Shortly after, we received our building permit and our first inspection of the new construction of the greenhouse. This would show a few areas in our progress that would have to be corrected. So again, the progress slowed as we corrected the imperfections of our work. We had to put stronger headers over the windows and doors, strengthen the gable edge by adding additional support, and put the sheathing under the window edges instead of over. The inspector also pointed out that the rafter span exceeded the max length according to code. You'll see how we took care of that one in this episode. Plus, Penny took a tour of an old elementary school in Elkhart, Indiana that has been turned into apartments by La Casa Incorporated. In this episode, we started to feel a financial pinch due to the unexpected expense of putting in a septic system and culvert ahead of schedule.
We hadn't run out of money set aside for the project, but we were concerned that if we didn't reduce our spending, we might not have enough money left for the larger projects like the heating and cooling system.
But the lack of funds would not slow us down.
Instead, we would deplete all materials on hand in order to rebuild our project cash reserve.
If you like our podcast, you'll love our website. Check it out at edificeventure.com. See pictures, read blogs, find cool links, and get information on green products and services.
Well, we got 4 kids, a cat, and a dog, and we're looking for an open space where we can stretch our legs and start a new life and build us a greener place. Our structure stood with no inner walls and a big hole in the roof. Now it's hard to build the American dream, and brother, this is living proof. A giant labor of love is falling down on County Road 1. But with TLC and nature's harmony, we can keep it from a coming undone. Seegers Family Edifice Venture, a practical way to go green. Seegers Family Edifice Venture, show you something that you've never seen.
The Seegers Family Edifice Venture is sponsored in part by Habitat for Humanity of Elkhart County, building decent affordable housing with people in need. WVPE 88.1, a NPR station. Inform, entertain, inspire. Anco Products Incorporated, our energy saves you energy. And Heritage Antique Lumber, crafting fine furniture, custom cabinetry, and trim using lumber from historic barns.
During the second week of January 2008, we were grateful to get a break in the weather. The snow had melted and we knew we would be able to get into the building for at least a short while before it snowed again. Since we weren't sure what we wanted to work on, we decided to hit the Habitat Restore and do a little window shopping. As usual, Penny had to go look at the pink oven and try and convince me it would look great in the kitchen. But this time her ritual would come to an end.
It's not here! Did you sell it? You sold it?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad somebody found a use for it since Brat over here would let me have it.
Aside from the pretty pink oven, we also had our eyes on a set of cabinets that we wanted to buy for the laundry room, but didn't because the snow hampered us from getting to the building to store them in the basement. Fate would be with us, the cabinets were still there, so we bought them for the low price of $450. Then we heard another bargain looming in the store.
We're throwing away a bunch of old doors that have been here for a while. Still has some to clear out.
Did he say throw out?
We're throwing away a bunch of old doors. We're throwing away a bunch of old doors.
That's what I thought he said. So while I made sure the cabinets were safely loaded, penny shifted gears from window shopping to door shopping. Then after we had the cabinets loaded, had it to avoid scratches, strapped down, and the gate shut, I noticed a pile of cement fiber siding and began to negotiate a price.
We got this at a salvage yard. They sold it for $2 a plank.
Okay.
The Habitat Restore is one of those stores you go into to window shop and end up finding great deals you can't pass. Needless to say, we would have to come back for the rest of the deals later since the cabinets took all the space on the trailer. On January 12, 2008, the day after our shopping spree, we returned to the Habitat Restore to pick up the rest of our bargains. After loading all the goods, Coy thought it would be cool to ride on the trailer. He did his best trying to talk me into the idea.
Could I please have a ride back your hold on,
But with no luck on his part. After getting Coy off the trailer and safely in the truck, we headed to the building to unload the goods. The weather was great for a winter afternoon, with a temp of about 50 degrees. We wanted to work on the building, but the generator had seized up earlier. Without a generator, we were without electricity. With no electricity, the power tools wouldn't work. So we had to settle with more cleaning and organization. I did come up with a new exercise machine that helps with aluminum recycling. The snow soon returned and our efforts to work on the building would be halted until April of 2008. April 11th, 2008. The northern Indiana inclement weather finally broke and the ground dried up enough for us to drive on it without getting stuck. Our morale was up and we were very motivated to make major advances forward. Due to the kindness of a fellow teacher, Ryan Courtney, we were able to power the tools again. Being the small engine repair teacher at the Elkhart Area Career Center, Ryan took our dead generator in for a needed overhaul and lent us his while the work was being done. Anyway, we were able to finish putting up the sheathing and house wrap on the greenhouse. It never amazes me in how the boys keep themselves entertained. That day, they would be occupied by a brick and a board configured as a makeshift teeter-totter. Or maybe it was an acrobatic enhancer to launch each other up onto the roof. Well, whatever it was, they had fun with it. Next, we cleaned the greenhouse and prepped it for the next project of putting up a laminate beam to bring us within code standards for the rafter span. The east side already had supports the beam could be attached to. The west side was a little trickier. I first had to drill holes in the wall. This allowed me to get in with a sawzall to cut an area out of the wall big enough for the beam to pass through. I then put two studs on the kitchen side of the wall that would be the actual supporting studs for the beam. By the way, the hole we cut out became a nice peephole to keep a watchful eye on my daughter and her boyfriend. Yeah, I know, I'm an overprotective dad. April 26, 2008. If you recall on our first inspection, we had a few things to work on to bring the newly constructed greenhouse into code. One of those things was the rafter span exceeded what code allowed. The obvious option to fix the problem was to tear the current roof off and replace the 2x6 rafters with 2x8 rafters. And that wasn't happening. So what was the plan? To cut the current span in half by putting up a laminate beam and support pole. It's May 3rd, 2008, and we're getting ready to do quite a bit of work on the kitchen. What we plan on doing is taking this wall completely out. But if you notice, up here on the top, there's part of the roof that is being supported still by this. Now the support on this is actually starting to sag somewhat, so we're going to replace it with two 2x10s sandwiched together. We're going to have a 3-foot support wall here. We're going to put two poles somewhat centered in the middle, and then we'll have another 3-foot wall on the other side. In between the poles, what we're going to put is our granite countertop, so we have like a bar setting area, and then of course there's going to be the two doors on either side of the granite top that will be an entrance or exit to the kitchen area. May 10th through the 13th of 2008, we put up collar ties in the kitchen, something this area of the building never had. Collar ties are horizontal supports used to reinforce gable or double-pitch roof rafters to prevent sagging. Collar ties are also used in finished attics as ceiling joists. We put them in for additional support and as ceiling joists so that we could attach drywall to them. When installing collar ties, they should be placed as close to the midpoint of the roof rafters as possible. If your collar ties extend more than 8 feet, additional bracing should be added so that they don't buckle in the middle. Make sure you attach the collar securely to the rafters to prevent them from slipping under a load such as snow. Collar ties are only effective in roofs with a 412 pitch or greater. Always check to see what your area building codes require. Trust me, a little research can save you time and money in the long run. Stay tuned to the Seegers Family Edifice Venture. When we return, we'll tell you how our second greenhouse inspection went, which wasn't as well as we would have liked it, and we finished the roof, plus put a little more siding on.
Habitat for Humanity of Elkhart County does more than build houses for those in need. They provide education on personal finance, homeownership, parenting, and other life skills to help those moving into these houses turn them into homes. Habitat for Humanity of Elkhart County, working with people from all walks of life to build simple, decent, affordable homes. For more information on how you can help, visit www.habitatec.com.
Heritage Antique Lumber is a small, family-run business.
We reclaim lumber and we turn it into something you can be proud of and you will be happy with.
The uniqueness of our cabinetry is one of a kind.
Heritage Antique Lumber makes furniture, crafts, mirrors, frames, and more using reclaimed barnwood.
We at Heritage Antique Lumber consider ourselves more than just craftsmen. We are also artists.
Visit our website and see our quality, heritageantiquelumber.com.
May 14th, 2008. After we made all of our corrections to the greenhouse, it was time for our second inspection. We had 3 things that we had to correct: the gable overhang, the windows and door headers, and the rafters that extended more than what was allowed by code. So how did we do this time? Well, all headers passed and so did the gable edge. The rafter span did not, although our beam and pole idea was an acceptable solution. You're probably asking yourself, if the beam and pole were an acceptable solution, why didn't it pass inspection? Good question. It was how we supported the ends of the beam that we got gigged on. Let me draw it out for you. We put 3 2x4s together with the center board shorter than the 2 end boards. This created a slot where the beam would slide in. The beam was made out of 3 2x10s, with the center board extending out past the 2 end boards. The center board of the beam would slide into the slot and rest on the shorter center 2x4s and be secured by the outer 2x4s. The beam didn't pass inspection because the center board of the beam was the only part being supported. That was a no-go. What we should have done is built the beam so that all 3 boards were supported. We also needed to find a better way to secure the pole to the floor and beam. Once again, we were left scratching our heads wondering how to fix what was done without tearing anything out. The inspector also pointed out something else that we needed to fix. The walls in the greenhouse are taller than a standard 8-foot wall. Because of the taller than normal walls, we needed to put extra supports in between the studs. This would be the easiest of the 3 to fix. However, there was good news.
Before we can put the steel on the roof, do we need to have you re-inspected, or can we go ahead and start putting the steel? Because we really need to get that covered with all the rain we've been having. And
that's not a problem. You can cover the roof up.
All right, we got the green light from the inspector to go ahead and put the roof on here and put the siding up, so that's what we're doing today. A lot of the felt is pretty well worn because it's been up here all winter. And what we're going to do first is put the felt down. And once we put the felt down, we're going to put this insulation on top of that, and then we'll put the tin over that. What we're putting on here right now is an insulation that goes in between the actual tin roof and felt. But what this has is a bunch of little air pockets inside here, so it actually is a very good insulator. So we're putting the first piece of steel down on the roof, and what we attach that to the roof with is these screws right here. And if you notice, there's a little rubber gasket that's on the screw, and when you screw that down into the tin, it keeps water from penetrating the steel roof. Now you got to be careful when you put these in, because if you put them in too far, it's going to make a dimple. That would be a major point where it would start rusting. Stay tuned to the Seegers Family Edifice Venture. When we come back, we finish the greenhouse roof and start siding again.
88.1 WVPE Public Radio is a vital communication resource that strives to inform, entertain, and inspire. National Public Radio is an internationally acclaimed producer and distributor of non-commercial news, talk, and entertainment programming. WVPE serves local listeners with a distinctive blend of national and local programming and annual events. In 2008, WVPE launched a sustainability initiative which includes green events and programs. Learn more at WVPE.org.
Since the early 1960s, Texture-Fine insulation has been an environmentally friendly product. Our unique process diverts millions of pounds of fiberglass scrap from landfills each year. Today, high-quality standards have made Anco Products a world-class industry leader in high-tensile strength, resilient insulation products.
Anco products include laminated metal building insulation,
insulated flexible duct system,
and indoor air quality, GreenGuard certified Texture-Fine insulation.
Green isn't a new initiative. We started in the 60s.
Anco Products, our energy saves you energy. The weather was warm, we were making good progress, and I was feeling good about the project. So I decided to promote one of our faithful helpers. Ian here has advanced from last summer. We pretty much just let him be a gopher, carry things around. Now we're letting him use a knife and a slap hammer, and we're even going to let him use a saw a couple times a day. Even though the crew was feeling good, Penny was not. She was recovering from major surgery. In fact, she should have been at home resting. But she insisted she would be fine sitting and watching us work. Being married for 16 years, I knew her decision was not up for debate. So while she sat, we continued to work on the tin roof on the greenhouse. It's very important that the tin panels are secured properly. When I put the screws in here, if you notice, on most of the ribs, I'm only putting one to the right. But now on the end, I'm putting a screw on both sides. And the reason for that is, if there's going to be any chance of this roof coming up, it'll be on the ends where the wind can catch and actually pull and start it and then rip it the rest of the way off. So we got our first piece down and we're going to put our second piece on. They overlap. But before we actually put the next piece on, we have to put on the last edge butyl tape. What the butyl tape does is it creates a seal in between the two pieces and it won't allow any rain or moisture to get up and over to the next piece. Tin roofs are sustainably green for several reasons. They are very durable and more efficient in the heat and cold. But my favorite reason of all, the leftover waste can be recycled. And the good thing about recycling steel, they pay for it, so you can make some money off of this stuff. After putting the roof down, we put a little more siding up. We were starting to feel like we would never finish the siding. With the size of the building being so large, one side of it is probably the equivalent of siding an average size home. Yay, that means we have 3.5 houses left to side. Just a reminder, we are using cement fiberboard siding. It's more efficient in cold and hot weather, very durable, fire retardant, and it is not part of a termite's daily diet. The last thing, a big plus. What we're working on today is removing a piece of a support. It's not really a support beam, but just basically a beam that was put in there to help support the edge of the floor in the kitchen. What the problem is, it must have got wet at one time because it's warped up about 3/4 of an inch, and it's causing some problems in getting the floor level. So once we take this beam out, we will be able to finish the floor, and then we'll start putting some tiles in. Yeah, it's just that easy. I would remove and replace the old end joist, and we would be able to finish the kitchen subfloor and start tiling. Okay, so it actually turned out to be the hardest job to date. It took me about 2 hours to remove that joist. There was very little space from underneath, and it was glued and screwed from above. So I pried, I cut, I drilled, and even used a screwdriver to punch the screws through the subfloor. Finally, my perseverance paid off and the rafter came loose. Anxious to put tiles down, we moved to finish the subfloor. When we installed the subfloor, we started by putting a half panel down. followed by full-size pieces. Then we started the second row of plywood with a full panel, leaving the half piece at the row end. Doing this ensures the panels will be staggered to avoid 4 corners meeting. The ends of all panels must be centered on a joist. Lay plywood with the long dimension of each panel running at right angles to the joist. This makes the best use of the plywood strength. We used 5/8 tongue and groove for our first layer and glued and screwed everything down to the joist. It's also recommended that you allow an 1/8 inch gap between panels to allow for expansion. After completing the first layer of our subfloor, we added a second layer of 1/2 inch plywood over the 5/8 plywood. First, we laid a 2x6 panel down to start our first column, with 2x8 panels following behind. We then put down a 2x4 panel to start our second column, followed by full sheets. By starting our pattern this way, no seams from the first and second layers would line up, stiffening the floor even more. Since we would be putting tiles down in the kitchen, a stiff floor was important. The stiffer the floor, the less movement it will have. Over time, tiles will work loose if a floor has too much up and down movement.
The Seegers Family Edifice Venture is sponsored in part by Habitat for Humanity of Elkhart County, building decent, affordable housing with people in need. WVPE 88.1, a NPR station. Inform, entertain, inspire. Anco Products Incorporated, our energy saves you energy. And Heritage Antique Lumber, crafting fine furniture, custom cabinetry, and trim using lumber from historic barns.
If you like our video series, you'll love our website. Check it out at www.edificeventure.com. See pictures, read blogs, find cool links, plus information and tips to help you get started on your own green, sustainable home improvement projects. Next time on the Seegers Family Edifice Venture, we put tiles down in the kitchen, we get wired for electricity, and we start framing out the second floor.